Hello everyone, and today we are going to talk about the first new launch of 2026 Narra Residences. So this is located in Dairy Farm, and I know it's traditionally not the most popular area, but in this video I'm going to talk about why Narra Residences could be a safe bet. But first, let's give you some general overview on the development. So the development is going to be 540 units ranging from 1 bedroom plus study all the way to 5 bedrooms. And there's also going to be more than 1-to-1 car park lots, which is quite rare for a new development nowadays. Expected TOP is sometime in the 2030s, but I think that the developer should be able to deliver it earlier because it's not that big of a development. And also, just to give you a breakdown of the unit mix, about 50% of the units here are 2-bedroom units because they are the most popular unit types for young buyers and for investors looking into the market. And then this is followed by 3-bedroom to cater to the families who are looking to upgrade or move into the area as well. There's also 1-bedroom plus study for Narra Residences, but only 3 units. We rarely see developers build 1-bedroom right now, so these are definitely going to be snapped up at launch. And also another interesting point to note are the 5-bedroom here, because they are the only 5-bedroom with private lifts in the whole of the Dairy Farm vicinity. No other condos have 5-bedroom units in Dairy Farm, so this might be an interesting unit type to look at as well. Next, so who is Narra Residences for? So I believe Narra Residences will serve a more niche buyer crowd, but I think it's for people who are looking for own stay but still looking at profits after a mid to long term hold. People who prefer an exclusive and quiet living enclave without compromising on the convenience, because you have Dairy Farm Residences, which is a mixed development. So you have your supermarket, you have some food, and then you have like coffee places, cafes that are there. And people who like to live near nature and the outdoors. And also if you're looking for a 5-bedroom, like I said, because there's no 5-bedroom supply in the area. Now, here comes to the reason why I think Narra Residences could be a safe bet. So if we look into the map here, we are zooming into the Dairy Farm enclave. On the right-hand side, you have condominiums like Eco Century, Treehouse, Forest Residences, and also at the bottom, you have Skywoods as well. These condominiums here are more than 10 years old, the older condominiums in the Dairy Farm enclave. Then secondly, you have Narra Residences, Dairy Farm Residences, and the Botany, which is going to TOP this year, and these are the newer condominiums in the Dairy Farm enclave. So typically with the newer condominiums, they will be a little bit more expensive because of the land cost, developers break even, and of course they are newer, more modern, so it's expected to be a little bit more expensive. What we see in a general market is that Singaporeans generally lean towards the newer condominiums and are willing to pay a little bit more to buy into a newer condominium. So what we are going to do here in this video is to compare Narra Residences prices with the newer developments in the area, so that would be the Botany and Dairy Farm Residences, but also give you an idea of how the older developments here stack up and compare against Narra Residences. And secondly, Narra Residence is also the first harmonization development in the Dairy Farm enclave, meaning that you're not paying for the aircon ledge, so you're only paying for the actual usable space of the unit. This will definitely give you an edge in the resale market, because if prices are similar, people will definitely prefer to go with something that's more efficient and just pay for the actual usable space. And lastly, if you look into the map here, you can see that there are plots of land that are still set aside for residential, which means future growth in the area is supported because these upcoming lands could be bidded at a higher land cost. And now let's take a look at the 10-year price trend of condominiums in District 23. And the reason why I think Narra Residence could be safe if you're looking from a mid to a long-term hold is because if we look at the 10-year chart here, the prices have actually grown about 68%, representing about 6.75% yearly growth. So this overall is still quite good, but if you zoom down into the smaller years, like from 2015 to 2017, you don't see as much growth in a shorter period of time, which is why I think that it will be safer if we look into a longer term horizon for District 23. And zooming into the specific condos in Dairy Farm, like Skywoods, Forest, Three House, and Eco Century, we see a similar trend as well. Across a 10-year mark, we do see generally a very good growth, but let's say from a period of 2015 to 2019, growth was a little bit slower. So here, if you're looking for own stay, like I said, and have a long-term hold, I would think that District 23 Narra Residences could still be a very safe entry into the market today. And now moving on, we're going to compare the pricing and layouts across the different unit types. I'm going to skip the 1-bedroom plus study for this analysis because there's only 3 units left, meaning it's actually going to be quite hard for you to snap a unit. But if you're interested, you can reach out to me directly at this number via WhatsApp and I'll share my thoughts with you directly. And now starting with a 2-bed, 1-bath, we're comparing this across 4 condominiums, including Skywood, which is the oldest condominium amongst these 4. So if you look into Skywood, it is 624 square feet, but interestingly, what you want to note here is that the second bedroom actually does not fit a queen size bed. So for the older developments, this is what we see in some of the layouts. But if you look into the newer developments in the area like Dairy Farm Residence and the Botany, both rooms here will be able to fit a queen size bed, with the Botany also coming with the enclosed kitchen layout. Alright, for Narra Residence on paper, this is the smallest 2-bed, 1-bath across all the unit types. But what you want to note that this 560 square feet here is also harmonized, which means that you want to add an additional 5% if you want to compare these developments equally. So most importantly, if you're still looking into the 2-bed, 1-bath in this area, what is the pricing that makes sense for you to enter? In this next slide, what I show you is the recent transacted pricing across Skywoods, Dairy Farm Residences, and the Botany, and also the price per year that you're paying for the number of lease left. Because this is another way that I think you could see whether the price you're paying is of good value, because the newer developments are definitely always going to be more expensive, but does it still make sense for you to enter? Is it a very, very big gap against condominiums that are older? So let's deep dive into it. If you look into Skywood, Dairy Farm Residences, you can see that if we take into account their recent transacted pricing against the number of years left, you're paying about $12,400 for the unit type per year. The Botany at Dairy Farm, the price has come in a little bit more expensive at about $14,500 plus. And do note that for all the numbers that we are seeing for the Botany is actually the developer's pricing. These units haven't hit the subsale market yet, which means that we will see owners trying to price it a lot higher in the subsale market. Narra Residence today for the 2-bed, 1-bath starting price is from 1.176. So even if I adjust the starting price a little bit higher, because depending on your ballot number, you might not get the cheapest unit. If we come in at 1.25, and because we have 98 years left on the lease, you are paying about $12,755 per year, which is similar to Skywood and Dairy Farm Residence. And in this instance, I think it definitely makes a lot of sense to go with the new development if you can wait, because you are getting a completely brand new unit. You don't have to factor in renovation, and you also get modern and new facilities. So that's the 2-bed, 1-bath. And now we move into the 2-bed, 2-bathroom. Similarly, Skywood here features an open concept kitchen, and then you also have an odd shaped balcony. Dairy Farm Residence and the Botany would be more similar. You have somewhat of an enclosable kitchen for Dairy Farm Residence. You have an enclosable kitchen for the Botany. And actually, the Botany and Narra Residence is very, very similar here. Dumbbell layout, and at 646 square feet for Narra Residence, after we factor in harmonization, it's actually a similar size with the Botany. So let's take a look at the pricing for this. If we look into Skywood and Dairy Farm, similarly, you're looking at about $14,000, $15,000 per year if we break it down based on their recent transacted pricing. The Botany is a little bit higher than Dairy Farm Residences only, but again, these units haven't hit the sub-sale markets and owners would likely want to sell it a little bit higher. And for Narra Residences, our starting price is from $1.284 million. And if you adjust it a little bit more to $1.4 million, you are actually paying about the same price or even lower as compared to the older condominiums in this area. So if you're looking for a 2-bedroom, I definitely think the 2-bed 2-bath is something to really look out for. So apart from the traditional 2-bed 2-bath layout at 646 square feet, at Narra Residences, there's actually 2 more 2-bed 2-bathroom layouts that you will be able to consider at 689 square feet and 700 square feet. The difference is that for the 689 square feet, it comes with a home shelter, and for the 700 square feet, it comes with a home shelter plus windows in the kitchen and the second bathroom. So this is incredibly rare. So if you want to buy into a product that not only is good for own stay, where you have the home shelter to solve your storage needs, but also be competitive and stand out against the rest of your neighbors, you can look into 2-bed 2-bathroom at the 689 square feet and the 700 square feet layout, because there's no other developments in the Dairy Farm area, and for most new launches now that comes with a home shelter and windows in the kitchen. And next, we move into the 2-bedroom plus study. Now we are comparing Eco-Century with Dairy Farm Residence, The Botany, and Narra Residences. And even if you adjust for harmonization, all of these unit types here are in the 700 square feet range. The only difference again is that for Narra Residence, the 2-bed plus study also comes with the home shelter, which will be very useful for people who are looking to stay in a 2-bedroom. But most importantly, let's look into the pricing. Eco-Century has a slight advantage in terms of price affordability, but if you look at that aside and you're someone who don't mind paying a little bit more for something a little bit more modern, new, brand new, that you don't have to reno, then Narra Residences could still be a good option, because if we look into the estimated starting price, what I'm using here is the developer's PSF for the 2-bed 2-bathroom, putting it into the 2-bedroom plus study. Price point wise could still be in the 1.4 plus range, 1.4 million plus range. And even if I adjust it to be a little bit higher at $1.5 million, you're only paying a bit more premium as compared to the older condominiums like Eco-Century and Dairy Farm Residences. So overall, if you're looking for a 2-bedroom unit at Narra Residences, I would say my first pick is to consider the 646 square feet 2-bed 2-bathroom, because at the price point, it gives you a comfortable entry into a good product in the market today. But if you have a little bit of a stretch in your budget, I would say go for the 2-bed 2-bath at 700 square feet, because this gives you a buy-in into a unique product in the market, which will help you better exit in the future. Alright, now we are looking into the 3-bedroom unit type, the 3-bedroom compact, and these are typically 3-bedroom 2-baths. So most of the units here are in the 900 square feet range except for Narra Residence. If you adjust for harmonization, it will be close to about 900 square feet. But first, let's look into the efficiency of the different layouts. For Dairy Farm Residences, it features 2 balconies in this layout. So usually people don't really want a balcony in the master bedroom because it's not really usable and not exactly necessary. If we look into the Botany layout, the AC ledge here is actually quite big, so it takes up actual usable space. And then they also have quite a big foyer area, so those could also be seen as wasted space. But most importantly, we look into the pricing. So if you look at Eco-Century, Dairy Farm Residences, and the Botany, surprisingly, the Botany and Eco-Century prices are a little bit higher, over $20,000 per year. We factor in the lease that is left on the properties. Dairy Farm at 19,000, and for Narra Residence is actually a very attractive entry price point for the 3-bedroom, because even if I adjust it to about $1.85 million, you're only paying about $18,800 per year across the 98 years, which is significantly lower than any of the developments in this area currently. And next, we're going to talk about arguably the most popular unit types for families, which is the 3-bedroom premium. And usually what this means is that it comes with a utility, has a yard area, and additional WC in the kitchen. So in terms of size as well, this is probably the most equal across all unit types, because if you're looking into the older condominium like Skywoods or even Dairy Farm Residence and the Botany, it is all slightly above 1,000 square feet. So this is the most equal that it has been. So let's talk about the entry price. So Skywoods here, it's the older condominium that's over 10 years old. If we look into the highest transacted pricing across the lease left, you're paying about $20,000. And Dairy Farm Residences here is the newest development with ready units, meaning you can move in, which is interesting because we see a higher premium being paid here. If you look into the number of lease left, it's about $24,000. And usually 3-bedroom units are very well sought after. We see families being able to pay a little bit of a higher premium because some of these people are upgraders and moving from their BTO, and usually they make quite a bit of tidy profit from their BTO, so they're able to pay for that premium as well. The Botany here has transacted at about 2.237, which translates about 23,000 across the number of leases left. These units haven't hit the subsale market, so it could look to be a little bit higher. For Narra Residence here, this is an opportunity because you're paying sort of like an in-between price. You know, people are already paying a higher price and are willing to pay a higher price for an existing property. So today, if you're buying it at a lower price, it's almost a guaranteed return, because in the future, when your unit hits the resale market, it's going to be newer, it's going to have longer lease left, and it's going to be more attractive for people who are looking for value in the Dairy Farm area. So next, we're going to talk about the 3-bedroom plus study. So Dairy Farm Residences, we don't have such unit type, so we're removing it from this lineup. But if you look at Eco-Century, the Botany, and Narra Residences at 1152 square feet harmonized, we actually have more usable space as compared to these two other layouts. So how do the price stack up? We do not have the actual indicative from the developers, but if we use the starting PSF for the 3-bedroom and then put it in for the 3-bedroom plus study, we'll be looking at maybe a $2.3+ million starting price. You'll be paying about $24,000 plus per year if you look at the lease left for Narra Residences. This is definitely still a little bit on the higher end as compared to the smaller 3-bedroom unit types. So if you're looking at a 3-bedroom plus study, just keep it in mind, the price here may not be as competitive, so you might want to be looking at a longer holding period if you're considering the 3-bedroom plus study. So for the 3 bedrooms, if you're looking for 3 bedrooms here at Narra Residence, in my opinion, the smallest 818 3-bedroom compact will give you the most value in terms of your potential exit, because it's a significant difference when you talk about the price point wise as compared to the 3 bedrooms they can get in the area. And then especially if you're new, then this will give people more reasons to look at you in the resale market. But if you're looking into the premium layouts, then the 990 could also provide you that value as well, because you know that people are paying a higher price point for, let's say, an existing 3-bedroom premium in the area. So if you manage to get a good ballot number and still come in earlier, then you're almost guaranteed a safe exit in the future. And now we move on to the bigger layouts, the 4-bedroom. So 4-bedroom, there are several layouts here, and usually for the 4 bedrooms across all developments, they come in varying sizes. So for the Skywoods, it's from about 1.1 to 1.3. Dairy Farm from 1.3 to 1.4, the Botany about 1.2 range. And then for Narra Residences itself, we have a smaller compact 4-bedroom at 1152, and then a bigger premium 4-bedroom at 1378. 8. So I think most importantly, when we look at these layouts here, I'm just going to talk about the Narra Residences layout in details. For the 1152 square feet, this is actually a similar size to the 3-bedroom plus study. So from a value standpoint, if we go back to compare a little bit, I would say it might be a little bit better for you to buy into the 4-bedroom if the price point is not that big of a difference. The only reason is because for a 4-bedroom, then you open yourself up to a bigger group of buyers who's looking for a bigger space. And for the 4-bedroom as well, there's lesser unit types, so would be less competitive when you're trying to sell in the future. So the only difference is that for the 1152 3-bedroom plus study, you get a bigger master bedroom, a walk-in wardrobe, and then of course that study. And then for the 1152 4-bedroom compact, what they've done is to carve out that extra room for you and then kept the master bedroom at a more traditional size. Okay, so we've sidetracked a little bit. Let's look quickly into the 1378 square feet here. For the 1378 square feet, what you get is a landscape living and dining. So that's definitely a very comfortable space. And then you have a big master bedroom with like a walk-in wardrobe also. So how does this compare in terms of the pricing? So pricing here, when we look into the 4-bedroom, there's a little bit of a bigger disparity because, for example, for Skywood, what you get for the 4-bedroom, the pricing is actually what you would find for the 3-bedroom in the newer dairy farm condominiums. So that's for you to consider. If pricing is a factor for you and you want to have a bigger space, then you might need to look into the older dairy farm condos. If not, if we compare the price point amongst the newer condominiums like Dairy Farm Residence and the Botany, then I would say that Narra Residences starting price for the 4-bedroom is actually very attractive because we're starting from $2.4 million, and even if we adjust it for a higher price point at $2.65 million, we are very comparable to the higher entry price on Dairy Farm Residence in the resale market and also the Botany as well, where people have bought in at about $2.7 billion. So buying into a new development, buying into a harmonized development, those are your advantage when you exit in the future. So looking at a 4-bedroom, I would say in terms of the price entry of value, definitely I would go with the 1152 4-bedroom compact because I think this would help me exit well in the future, especially since people who are buying into the 3-bedroom plus study will be buying into a unit of a similar size. So the 4-bedroom already immediately stands out as something that would be more value for money. And lastly, we will look at the 5-bedroom. So for the 5-bedroom, there are two layouts, 1658 and 1679. No comparison here because the 5-bedroom is actually the only 5-bedroom unit type across all the dairy farm condominiums. So if you want to buy into something unique, something that does not have any competition, then the 5-bedroom will be one to look out for. It comes with a private lift, and I think if we look into the condominium's performance, throughout last year, when we look into like Sky at Holland, Zion Grand, Springleaf Residences and all that, we can see that the bigger unit types like the 4 and 5 bedrooms are actually very popular because people value space right now. So the 5-bedroom unit type here could be a good way for you to enter into the market, especially since there have been shifting sentiments of people buying into bigger space. And another thing is that what we have is the landed enclave around the Chestnut Drive area. If people who are looking to move from the landed to a condominium, they will definitely value space, and a 5-bedroom could be a unit type that they are looking for. So for you to enter in right now, 5-bedroom, there's only 26 units. So that means 26 units of 5-bedroom in the whole of Dairy Farm. You should be able to still exit well, which is why in terms of the price point wise, they are starting from 3.95 million. A little bit on a higher end, even if we look into the PSF. But that's because developers are confident and they don't have any competition. Alright, so for buyers out there who are looking at Narra Residences, why should you enter on day one? So if we look into the past two new launch performance in Dairy Farm, we look at Dairy Farm Residences and the Botany, we can see that sales is not as crazy on day one as compared to what you see in some other condominiums. For example, Sky at Holland is like 98% sale on day one. Springleaf Residences about 94%, I believe, on day one. Traditionally, so far from what we've seen from history, Dairy Farm don't perform as well. And it could be a concern for some people, but here's why I want to tell you that not selling out on day one could be the biggest advantage for you if you were to come in on launch day. So, firstly, Narra Residences, the land bid is at 1020 PSF PBR. The estimated break-even for the developers is at 1,844 PSF. Today, what the developer's starting price is at 1,900 XX PSF, which means it's less than 10% profit margin for them. And typically for new launches, developers are aiming for a profit margin of about 20 to 25%, which we've seen in many of the new condominiums, which means today on day one, Narra Residence is going to offer you this value, and I'm quite sure that developers will adjust its pricing along the way, but it will definitely benefit you if you're buying in on day one. And if you look at the developer price staging strategy for Dairy Farm Residence and the Botany, as developer increase their pricing, their price staging, it actually increases your safety net also if you're a buyer today. If you look into the Botany on launch day, we can see that this 4-bedroom in Stack 30 is bought in at a price of about $2.5 million range. And then fast forward to today, recently, just last year in November, there's a dropout unit, and this level 2 unit on Stack 30 as well, the person bought in at 2.773 million. So imagine if today you are a first day buyer and you bought in at $2.5 million and you're on a higher floor and you know that someone on the lower floor basically have bought in at about $200,000 more than you. That is actually your safety buffer for exit, because this person is going to still try to sell it at a higher price in the future when they exit as well. Alright, so similarly, Dairy Farm Residence, if we look into their early launch phase and the launch day, people who bought into the 2-bedroom plus 2-bed, 2-bath actually bought in at about $1.171 billion, $1.13, $1.18 million right here. Fast forward to the later launch phase in 2023, someone bought a similar size unit at $1.4 million. So this represents about like a 300,000+ difference for people buying in an early stage and to the later stage. So sometimes when the development don't sell out on day one, it could still be an advantage for you. So today, if you're interested in Narra Residences, the preview is fast approaching. It's on the 17th of January and the launch day will be on the 31st of January. So if you want to get the best unit selection, if you want to get the developer's best pricing, it will be best for you to come in on day one. And if you want to work together, if you want to get a breakdown of your financial calculation and I'll walk you through the progressive payment scheme, feel free to reach out to me via my WhatsApp at this number and I will connect with you very shortly. And with that, that's the end of my sharing today, and I hope to see you at Narra Residences. Alright, bye!